Assalamualaikum. This is Raja Omar. I welcome you to my channel RU Speaks, and as we are discussing global perspectives of IGCSE and O levels for the last few days, and we are discussing component number 1, I mean the written exam, the paper of 70 marks. So in the last two videos which are already available on my channel RU Speaks, I have explained the question number 1 and question number 2 over there, that how to attempt those two questions as per the marking scheme of Cambridge. And today we're going to start question number 3. As you all know that there are 4 questions of IGCSE Global Perspectives paper. So today I'm going to explain question number 3, that whose argument is more convincing. So as I explained the paper pattern, here is question number 3 in your paper. Study source 4. This is really very important factor that you are supposed to keep in mind, that this particular question is related to source 4 only, and you are not supposed to consider any other source. So only source 4. Now we are going to the insert file and we are going to find out that what is source 4. In source 4, we find there is some debate of 2 persons in the whole of this source. As you can see that in this particular paper, Sarah and Jameel's arguments are given on the same paper as we are considering the paper for the last couple of days, that is related to the job patterns and the employment and the e-commerce and the impact of e-commerce on the job patterns, all this. So a radio debate on the battle between e-commerce and employment patterns. So it is a debate, so it means that there are certain sort of different perspectives of the people might be coming over here. So here is the perspective of Sarah. What Sarah says about the whole of this debate, that what are the impacts of e-commerce on the job placements and the job patterns elsewhere. So in this particular argument, we see that these are the wordings of Sarah, and down over there, these paragraphs, they are the perspective of Jameel over here in these lines. The question is that whose argument is more convincing, whether Sarah's or Jameel's, and we are supposed to analyze these 2 persons' perspectives on these 3 lines. Consider both the arguments. So it means that we are supposed to explain both. It doesn't mean that if it says that which argument is more convincing, I mean talking about one singular, but while explaining the whole of the question, we are supposed to discuss both perspectives of the people over there in that source. So we are supposed to evaluate their reasoning, their evidence, and use of language, and support your own knowledge, your own judgment with their words and ideas. It means that we are supposed to give the reference from the sources. I mean, we are supposed to give the quotation from the wordings given by those 2 persons in that source. So this is how we are supposed to find out that. Now, this is a question, and keep in mind that it is 16 marks question, and if I drag down to the bottom of this page, you will see that it is a single page question and it carries 16 marks. So it means that we are supposed to discuss both the arguments within the 16 marks. And if I go to the marking scheme of the same question, here is the marking scheme, and what we find over here. Which argument is more convincing, Sarah's or Jameel's? This is the question. And again, these are the 3 guidelines or we are supposed to follow for the sake of responding to this particular question. Consider both arguments. Again, the reasoning, evidence, and the use of language. These are the 3 important factors we are supposed to analyze and evaluate. And we are supposed to give some judgment that whose argument is more convincing, who had better views and who had the good points over there in that argument. So for this particular response, we are supposed to consider two tables over here in the marking scheme, table E and table F. And in table E, we are supposed to give the analysis, right? And in the table F, we are going to give the evaluation. Okay. Now, if I consider table A, it says that it is the assessment objective 1 and it is related to the analysis of the whole of the arguments given over there in that source, and you can attain 8 maximum marks out of 16 for this particular assessment objective 1, the analysis. So it means that 8 marks are for analysis and 8 marks are for evaluation in table F over here in the coming page. Here you will see table F and 8 marks are over here for the evaluation. So it means that for the sake of explaining this question, you are supposed to keep in mind two things. Number one, the analysis of 8 marks and evaluation of 8 marks, right? So if I go above again for the assessment objective 1 related to analysis over here, you are supposed to keep in mind level 4. I mean, you are supposed to attain this thing to gain 7 or 8 marks. Consistently analytical throughout and fully supported. So it means that you are supposed to be really very much analytical in explanations of giving the reasoning throughout and fully supported with what? With the references from the sources. Analysis of a wide range of aspects of both arguments. So it means that you are supposed to explain both Sarah and Jameel's arguments. Frequent use of relevant material taken from the source. So it means that this is what I say on daily basis, that you are supposed to give the source reference for every question. I mean, you are supposed to give the quotation from the sources every now and then to explain your answer. So this is how you will be able to authenticate your point of view, that why you are considering that this argument is really very authentic and reliable and really very much convincing on the basis of the references you are giving. Clear and explicit comparison of the both the arguments. So in the analysis, what you will do, you will give the analysis comparison. And in this comparison, what will you do? You will talk about the different aspects of both the arguments, that if one person has given global perspective in his argument, also has given the national perspective over there, has also given the personal experience or personal point of view as well, also has given the some reference from the global organization, and has given the reference of some research. So it means that this is sort of argument which is really very much the argument which can be considered as really very much convincing. And on the other hand, if someone has given only the personal opinions and haven't given any of the source references, haven't given any of the references from the global organizations, and not given any global perspective or national perspective in the response in that argument will be considered as really very much weaker one. And language, then talking about the language, that if someone has used really very authoritative language, or used emotive language, or used convincing language. I mean, talking about the tone of the language, that what sort of language the person has used in that argument. So we are supposed to give that analysis as well. So while talking about the analysis, I mean the assessment objective 1, we are supposed to keep in mind this whole of the thing, and in this way we will be able to attain 8 marks out of 16 for the assessment objective of analysis over here. And if we move towards the second phase, I mean the assessment objective 1, but that is related to evaluation over here. 8 marks are allocated for this one. So again, you can see that 8 marks, and again the highest level is level 4, and you are supposed to consider this particular box for the sake of attaining 8 marks. Then you will be able to get 16 out of 16 in this particular question. So consistently evaluative throughout and fully explained. Over there it was fully and consistently what? Analytical. You are supposed to be really very much analytical over there in the assessment objective 1 analysis, and in this one you are supposed to be really very much evaluative. You are supposed to give the evaluation that which argument is really very convincing. How? Detailed and reasoned explanation of a wide range of evaluative points throughout the response. Both reasoning and evidence within the argument in both the sources are evaluative explicitly, clear, supported judgment, consistent with the candidate's argument. So it means that you are supposed to give really good reasons that the evaluative reasons that how the argument is considered to be really very much uh, convincing, and to be considered as that this one is the better argument. So for this one, you are supposed to give the evaluation, and then you are supposed to give the analysis, and in the end you are supposed to write a single sentence of the whole of the conclusion. I mean, while explaining, first write the person whose argument is more convincing first. For example, you can say that Jameel's argument is more convincing because, and start giving the reasons of first the analysis and then the evaluation. First give the analysis of Jameel's argument, and then analysis of over here, then give the analysis of you can say, on the other hand, Sarah's argument is weaker. Just giving you example. Argument is weaker because, start giving the analysis of Sarah's argument. Right? And then over here, move on that the Jameel's argument talk about the reasoning, multiple perspectives, I mean, Jameel has used the global perspective and the national perspective and the personal opinions and these sources of evidence and some expert opinion, some research. If we go to the insert over here and just if we read out, what you will see that just look at the Jameel's argument. You will find what? I understand the concerns Sarah highlights, but we need to consider the broader global perspective. So, I mean, Jameel is going to talk about the global perspective. E-commerce isn't just reducing jobs in traditional retail; it is creating opportunities worldwide. So it means that he has given the global perspective over here. For example, in countries like China and India, platforms like Alibaba and Flipkart have empowered small businesses to reach international markets. So really very good global perspective is given by Jameel in his argument. So really very well evaluation of the whole of the Jameel's this paragraph, that he has given the global perspective in his argument. Additionally, organizations like International Labour Organization. So again, this is the global perspective given of the perspective of in Jameel's perspective or argument, that the global perspective is given with the reference of the International Labour Organization. Emphasize that while automation and e-commerce disrupt traditional jobs, they also create new roles in logistics, digital marketing, and information technology. So it means that, again, really very good global perspective is given over here. The key is ensuring workers are equipped to transition into their roles. For instance, the World Economic Forum, another global organization reference is given. So one was over here in ILO and the other one is the World Economic Forum. This is another organization. So second global organization reference is given. Again, global perspective explained. Reskilling Revolution initiative highlights the importance of upskilling workers globally to adapt to digital transformation. So really very good one. Global perspective with the right policies like Germany. So here the national perspective of Germany is given by Jameel in his argument. Germany's vocational training program tailored for e-commerce and international cooperation. To share these strategies, we can turn this disruption into an opportunity for inclusive economic growth. So in this paragraph, the national perspective of Germany is given by as the explanation by Jameel. So it means that Jameel has given global perspective over here up in the first paragraph, and then with the support of the ILO and World Economic Forum, he has given the global perspective over here in this paragraph as well. And in third paragraph, Jameel has given the national perspective of Germany. And my clothing brand struggled to survive when foot traffic to my store plummeted, but moving online allowed me to reach customers across the globe. It wasn't easy. I had to invest in digital tools and learn new skills, but I saved my business. So over here, he has given the personal perspective, personal expertise, personal opinion he has given, that is given over here. So it means that overall, if you see that all important factors are given in the Jameel's argument, that he has explained the all national perspectives, global perspectives, reference of the global organizations, and his personal point of view over there. But on the other hand, if we talk about Sarah's argument, what we see that in Sarah's argument, e-commerce has undoubtedly disrupted traditional retail jobs. With more people shopping online, physical stores are closing, leading to job loss in sectors like retail, logistics, and customer services. These workers often lack the skill required for e-commerce roles, creating a widening skill gap. Small businesses might gain some advantages, but they often struggle to compete with the pricing and reach of these giants. As I have seen the impact of e-commerce on employment firsthand, my brother owned a small bookstore for over 15 years, but during the pandemic, he could not compete with the convenience and low prices of online retailers. Eventually, he had to close his shop, and the loyal employees who had been with him for years were left jobless. It's not just statistics, it is the real living being disrupted. So here she has given the personal perspective, right? Over here she has given the personal opinion. There is a vested interest in promoting e-commerce as a universal solution, but the reality is that it leaves millions of workers, especially in developing nations, unprepared and vulnerable to unemployment. We need we need policies that focus on protecting workers, not just the profits. Again, she has given the opinion, personal opinion. So it means that if we consider the pace of change is too fast for many workers to catch up, governments and businesses need to work together to provide better training and support to those affected by this shift. So she has given the again opinion, and she has given some suggestion. And if you see, she hasn't given any reference from the global organizations. She hasn't given any global perspective over here. She hasn't given any national perspective of some country over here in her argument. She has only given personal opinions elsewhere, over here. And she has given the example of her brother over here, that he owned a small business of book selling, but he lost whole of his business just because of the online retailing. So it means that she has given the vested interest as well, that as why is she against the online business? Because her brother lost his business, the retail shop. So it means that vested interest is also there. So overall, you can see that Sarah's argument is considered to be really very much poor in comparison with Jameel's argument, as Jameel's argument has all sorts of perspectives over there with the references and global organizations. Really good one. So he has given his own point of view, but right in the end, rather than explaining whole of the argument with his own opinions. So considering this one, the whole of the arguments, if we consider these two, Jameel's argument is more convincing, and then you will respond to this question. You will start right up over there that Jameel's argument is more convincing because he has incorporated all the perspectives, global perspective in his argument by giving the reference of the global organizations like ILO and World Economic Forum over there in his argument. And here you can put in the quotation or a small portion of Jameel's argument over here to authenticate that what he has given. And here he has also put in the national perspective of Germany over here in his argument, making his argument really very much stronger. And however, there are certain drawbacks, that he has only talked about the positives of the online retailing rather than giving the disadvantages, and this makes whole of his argument a bit imbalanced or biased and only one-sided. So he could incorporate the negatives of the online retailing into his argument to make it really very much unbiased or balanced argument, but he could not. So that is the drawback. So it means that you are supposed to explain the positives and negatives of Jameel's argument and positives and negatives of Sarah's argument. Sarah's argument might be that she has given the emotive language. That is plus point of Sarah's argument, that she has used emotive language. She has given the example of her brother. This shows that she has some sort of personal affiliations that, with her brother, that he has lost his business just because of the online shopping of books rather than buying from his store. So she explained the unemployment factor over there. That is really the positive point, that she has given the first hand experience that she saw or she observed over there in her locality or in her closer vicinity, the business of her brother. So this is how you can say that Sarah's argument lacks the depth, lacks the global perspective, lacks the references from the global organizations. However, she has given the personal experience of her brother, and you can quote a small line from her argument over here, that her brother lost his business just because of the online retailing happened just because of the pandemic during COVID-19. So this is how you are supposed to explain. I suggest that you are supposed to give the positives, wide range of positives of Jameel's argument, and there can be 3 to 4, or you explain 2 really very good, well-developed points. And you can also give negatives. Just undeveloped, you can talk about 2 negatives, that whole of his argument was one-sided, and he could incorporate the negatives of online buying and selling as well for the sake of balancing his argument. On the other hand, you can talk about that Sarah's argument was really very much weak. On the basis of that, she has only talked about her personal opinions, and she has given the vested interest over there that she disliked the online retailing because her father, her brother lost his business, and in the same way, she could not give any reference from the global organizations or could not put in any sort of global perspective or national perspective or some other research based sort of thing in her argument. So Sarah's argument is poor. So right in the end, you will write a single sentence to conclude that if we put forward if we put forward these arguments to the people, the majority will be favoring Jameel's argument, as it is well reasoned and very convincing. So that is the final evaluation of whole of the arguments. So your arguments will come up over here. Your explanation of Sarah's and Jameel's arguments as I explained, and then in the end you will give this conclusive sentence. Again, going back to the marking scheme over here. So you talk about the strength of reasoning, that how logical the argument was and how well structured that argument was, how balanced the argument was, and what sort of claims were given over there in that argument. I mean, whether the global perspective or global perspective, national perspective or personal perspective, or the references from the global organizations are given in that argument or not. If they are given, so that is the very, very good one. So strength of reasoning. Use of language tone. Tone, emotive, exaggerated, precise, measured, clarity. So if I say that the Sarah's language tone was really very much emotive, but on the other hand, the language tone of Jameel was really very much precise and measured and really very much clear. Both the languages, the arguments, languages were really very much clear. But the difference is that Sarah used emotive language. She tried to put in some emotion in that one by explaining her brother's business loss. On the other hand, Jameel gave really very much precise and measured language tone, making his argument really very much stronger. So evidence, range of information and depth, relevance, sufficiency, sample size, media, internet, how relevant, different types of information, facts, opinions, values, anecdote, and testimony from experience and experts. So if we talk about that, all these things, Jameel used all these really very well by putting in the different sorts of things over here in his argument. So making his argument really very much stronger. Sources of bias or vested interest. So as we see that over here, if I talk about Jameel's argument first, Jameel also shows the vested interest, that he says that because of the online trading, he was able to save his business. So it means that again, he is also giving the vested interest. He is in favor of online business or e-commerce that he is working on it, and he is earning from that particular online business. So it means that it's good for him. That's why he is favoring that one. So again, some sort of biasness is there, right? And in the same way, the vested interest is given by Sarah over here, that when she talks about her brother. So over here, if there is some biasness you can see, or some vested interest over there and any of the arguments you are supposed to put in that one. So logical interest, economic, personal values and experience. So all these things you are supposed to explain if you find them over there in that arguments. So this is how you are supposed to attempt this whole of the question. So here are the strengths and weaknesses of the arguments. So as I told you that as Jameel's argument is stronger, so you are supposed to write about the Jameel's argument first. Which one is convincing? You are supposed to write about that first, then talk about the other one. So global perspective is well versed. References of global organizations are given. Language tone is persuasive. He is trying to persuade the people. Yes, highlighting positive economic impact of e-commerce and incorporating expert opinion over there, and real life experience of success, his own business, and focus on policy solutions. So these are the positive points of Jameel on which you can say that his arguments was really very much stronger. However, there are certain drawbacks of Jameel's argument. Limited focus on job losses. He hasn't talked about the unemployment caused because of the e-commerce, and overemphasized on developing countries, underestimated of the skill gap, risk of overgeneralization, e-commerce benefits, lack of discussion on potential negative impacts of e-commerce, and potential vested interest is quite visible, that he talks about his own business that he was able to save through online business, I mean e-commerce. So these are the negatives. And here we have the strengths of Sarah: personal experience and emotional appeal, I mean brother's business loss. So clear identification of key issues. She explained the issues really very well. I mean, she talked about the unemployment because of e-commerce. So relevance of the issues related well, and then call to action, that the action should be taken to resolve the issue. Empathy and social awareness. So workers, her brother's workers, those who lost their jobs. So heavy reliance on anecdotal evidence. I mean, she exaggerated a lot. Lack of quantitative data, overgeneralization of the skill gap, limited consideration of positive impacts of e-commerce, insufficient exploration of global differences. So it means that these are the weaknesses of Sarah's argument. These are the strengths of Sarah's argument. So, and here we have the strengths of Jameel's argument and weaknesses of Jameel's argument. Keeping in view this one, what we find out that the Jameel's argument is more convincing in comparison with these two. So 8 marks of analysis and 8 marks of evaluation, 8 and 8. So this is the 16 marks question. Compared to Sarah's argument, this perspective offers a more optimistic and global view, emphasizing how e-commerce can drive economic growth and create new job opportunities, especially in developing countries. However, it underplays the immediate negative impacts on traditional retail jobs and the challenges of reskilling, which Sarah highlights as significant concerns for workers in both developed and developing nations. So that is a sort of conclusion given over here. So this is how the question number 3 can be attempted in your paper. So I'm going to upload this video very soon, so you will be able to get the guidance from this one. And for today, this is over from my side. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, watch, like, and share with others this video. And inshallah, see you tomorrow for question number 4. Thank you so much.